No, I don't think so.
Why?
I just don't see a scenario where they finish as a top 4 team. I think USC takes it. It's just like looking at college football as a whole.
Mm.
I think USC takes a jump, and I think Georgia and Alabama continue to cruise. I just see 2 losses on Tennessee's schedule. I don't think they can knock off Georgia and Neyland, and I don't think they win in Tuscaloosa. And 10-2 is just ultimately not going to cut it.
Mm. That's too
And
clean,
to
though.
me, that's their ceiling. To me, that's their ceiling. They may not have finished 10-2, but to me, that's their ceiling.
Interesting. Ryan, do you share that sentiment?
I do, yeah. I don't think the offense is going to be as good, and I don't think the defense is going to be so much better that it makes up the slack there. And, to me, I'd be shocked. I agree with Jack's sentiment. The ceiling feels like 10-2. And it's a team that'd be, great chance to make the playoff and an expanded playoff. But in the last year of the 14 playoff, I have a hard time seeing the path. And maybe Joe Milton comes out and then absolutely sets the world on fire, and the offense doesn't take a big step back, and the defense with all this infusion of young talent is better. Maybe it's a perfect world and you have a perfect storm and all that happens, but I don't see that as being likely or certainly something I would bet on.
Is it a Mac Jones scenario is what people are thinking, where it's like, because that would be the most Tennessee thing possible, where it's like Joe Milton has the best, like they are just the most dangerous. Everything comes together. The defense is better the year that Joe's at QB. And they really do, like James Pierce, Joshua Josephs, Dominic Bailey. Keenan Peely is just a monster. And then you have just this depth in the secondary, and maybe Danico Slaughter is a all SEC guy at corner. And there's a scenario where like a lot of things go Tennessee's way, but like you look at Alabama 3 years ago and you're like, isn't it weird that Mac Jones was the quarterback for the best Alabama offense of all time, and he wins a national title and goes undefeated? And then Bryce Young never wins a national title for Bama, who is unquestionably the best quarterback in Alabama history. Like Hendon Hooker, we all expect this drop off. And like, what if there is a drop off from Hooker to Milton, but like everything else is better, and Brew is better than Tillman and healthier all year, and Dante Thornton is maybe better than Jalen Hyatt for a year. Ramel Keaton is better than who he was a year ago. Like there are scenarios. I don't think it's as likely, but like that would be something about college football that we're like, because to me, I'm coming this year 8-4 feels about right to me. 8-4 with a couple losses. I still think I'm not going to say they split, because I called they split Bama Georgia last year. I'm not certain I'm going to go they split Bama Georgia this year. I don't know. I think that's where my head's at. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, you're saying that the team is better despite the quarterback drop off. So
yeah,
Tennessee may have a better chance to be a CFP contender.
Because everybody else is better around him, where it's like Brew goes to another level and is like one of the best wide receivers in the country. I mean, that's possible. Like Brew being one of the best receivers in the country is possible.
Maybe. Yeah, I just don't think that Tennessee's. I just don't think you're going to get any sort of production like you had from Jalen Hyatt last year. To me, for what you're saying to become true, I think Tennessee's running backs have to be like top of the SEC.
What if Jalen Wright's an Alvin Kamara? What if he has an Alvin Kamara type year? What if they run the ball so well it takes a lot of pressure off Joe Milton because they have the depth there? Cam Seldon's a dude right away as a freshman.
Yeah, no, I think for what you're saying to come true, the pass rush cannot take a drop off with Byron Young leaving, which that could happen.
It's got to get better if what Chase is saying is going to happen.
Yeah, and the running backs have to be elite. I think they have to have an elite running game for what you're saying to come true.
But that's possible. Like Tennessee having elite running, I mean, they were borderline elite last year. I mean, it's not like they really had a lot of problems running the football throughout the year. We weren't just like, oh man, Tennessee really they're struggling to move the ball on the ground.
I don't think opponents were necessarily intimidated by Tennessee's running game though. Like they didn't come in
like, oh man, online too. Dylan Sampson, Jalen Wright. How did that go? Yeah,
but it's not. That's not what you talked about when you talked about facing.
You weren't game planning for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which you very well could be this season.
I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to run the ball a lot more, and I think this is going to be it's going to be a more spread out. And I think a lot of people have been conditioned to believe that like it's always going to be this limited group of guys where Heupel trusts his 3 receivers. He trusts his running backs for a whole series. I think there's now just too much talent. I'm curious to see if that was a just talent issue as to why he was only trusting certain guys and that he was exhausting the guys he trusted, or that, I mean, if that is his ideology as a play caller and just as a coach, or because there's so much more infusion of talent that like there's just no way you're only going to be able to play like Dante Thornton, Squirrel, and Brew McCoy is your only wideouts this year. Like you're gonna have to intertwine like Thornton at the slot, sometimes Squirrel at the slot. Sometimes you're gonna have Ramel out there for drives at a time. You're gonna have maybe Chaz Nimrod out there for drives at a time. Like you just have to keep some of these dudes more engaged than in years past. And you have just more talent. But I think we're gonna see more rotation and more versatility from Tennessee across the board this year. I think my gut tells me that was more of just the leanness of the roster, more so than Heupel's like, I'm only playing these guys and they're just going to get a bunch of snaps and everybody else, we'll see you next year. That's my gut instinct on that.
Yeah, I think there's probably a middle ground there, but it's like they clearly trusted Ramel Keaton last year, like as they should have. And when Cedric Tillman came back, like he did play more. It wasn't like he played none, but it wasn't like he played a ton either. It wasn't like he was nearly splitting reps with Brew McCoy. And it's just so easy. And I talked about sports season last year, and you're right. They should have more guys that they trust this season. But it's just so easy to sit in the coach's room, or for our case, to sit on a podcast here and the last day of March or even mid-August and say, you have all this talent and you got to play Chaz Nimrod. You got to play Dante Thornton. You got to play Ramel Keaton. But when you get into the game and it's the fourth quarter, it's the third quarter of a tight game against Florida down in Gainesville, who's taking Squirrel White out of the game? Who wants to take Brew McCoy out of the game? I think it's just a lot harder said than done to take out who are your best guys, no matter if you trust the backups or not. And I think you're right. I think there should be more trust. I think 6 deep, they're pretty solid receiver this year. And I think it won't be as cut and dry of it's just 3 guys in the highway for everybody else until you're up by 28 points in the fourth quarter. But I don't think it's going to be, certainly not going to the Butch Jones level where it's like 6 receivers playing the same amount of snaps. I just don't see that being the case. Running back probably is the spot where I think you'll see that more, because I just don't see how all 3 of Sampson or Wright and Small don't have, very sizable roles.
Jack, how excited are you for Jack Merklinger entering the fold here, and how surprised are you that he ultimately chose the Vols over situations where he could probably play right away in North Carolina after Drake May leaves?
Yeah, no, I was surprised, just given the quarterback talent Tennessee has moving forward, and it's you could argue there's no path to the field if Nico's Nico for his first 2 years of college ball. Maybe redshirt's one of those. But yeah, I think it's a good land for Tennessee. It just shows that they're able to compete with the heavyweights and land quarterbacks now. And yeah, I think it's a good pickup for the Vols, and it gives you an insurance policy if Nico, gets hurt or anything like that. So you have a good backup now that will be here for the 2 years Nico starts.
Ryan, it's interesting. I was listening to 247 recruiting podcast on him yesterday because I'm not out here grinding the